let's get to this song. So, if you guys don't know, a Gucci Mane announced pretty much like about an hour or two ago. He says he's dropping a midnight. He's dropping a song that's called Crash Dummy with a picture of a dummy that's crashed. Now, this has to be a pushy this solid. Gucci Mane just rapped his witness statement. No cap, not a metaphor, not an exaggeration. The man literally got, on a track produced by Zatavin, the same __ who made half his classic catalog, and described bar for bar what he allegedly told the Dallas Police Department in January. The same statement that the FBI used to arrest Pooh Shiesty. The same statement that a federal judge cited when she looked Pooh in his face and said, "I can't find any conditions to offer that haven't already been granted to you," and denied his bond. Gucci Mane rapped his federal cooperation on a diss track and dropped it on streaming. That's the video. That's the story. But y'all need to hear all of this because the layers on this situation go deeper than anything that's happened in hip-hop in years. We're talking about a kidnapping, a forced contract release at gunpoint, FBI wiretaps, AirTag tracking, a son and his father arrested together, and now a disc record that might actually be used as evidence. Let me break it down for y'all from the top. To understand how wild this is, we got to go back not just to January. We got to go back to 2020. Pooh Shy, real name Lantrell Williams Jr., signed to Gucci Mane's 1017 record imprint when he was still an underground Memphis rapper with a buzz that hadn't fully exploded yet. And when I say Gucci believed in him, I mean it. He put him on the label, started the marketing machine, and within a year, Pooh Shiesty was one of the hottest names in rap. Back in Blood, the collab with Lil Durk was an anthem. The streets were eating. 2017 was eating. Gucci looked like a genius label head. Then in 2021, Pooh Shiesty catches a federal gun case, charges related to shooting someone at a Miami strip club, and he's done. Out the game, into the system. While he's sitting in federal prison, Gucci Mane and the 1017 machine keep moving. And here's where you need to pay attention, fam, because this is the root of everything. According to Charleston White, who told his version on Aiden Ross stream, while Pooh Shiesty was locked up, Gucci Mane generated somewhere in the neighborhood of $24 million. Now, Pooh was still signed to the label the whole time he was in prison. He's generating revenue. His music is still getting streamed. Merchandise. Sync deals, the whole thing. And according to what's been said in these streets, Gucci allegedly wasn't cutting Pooh in. Now, I'm not saying that makes what happened next right. Not even close. But you need to understand the mentality of a man who spent years locked up, came home in October 2025, dropped a track called F-Deal that showed he was focused and ready to work, and then allegedly felt like he was being played by the same person who was supposed to be his plug. That's the setup. That's the gasoline. The fire came on January 10th, 2026. Luminous Studios, Dallas, Texas. That's the location. On the surface, it's supposed to be a meeting, a sit-down between Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane about the recording contract, label business, adult conversation. Except here's what the federal criminal complaint says actually happened. Pooh Shy didn't show up alone. He showed up with a crew, 8 people total. And when you show up to a business meeting with 8 people, as DJ Academics very correctly pointed out, that ain't a business meeting no more. That's a coordinated operation. According to prosecutors, this was what they're calling a coordinated arm takeover. Pushy and his crew, including his father, his own father, Lantrell Williams Sr., allegedly entered that studio under the cover of a contract discussion, and then things switched up fast. Here's where it gets crazy. The prosecutors say that once they were inside that soundproof studio booth, and if you've ever been in a studio, you know once those doors close, the outside world can't hear a thing. Pooh allegedly produced an AK-style pistol. He allegedly pointed it, and then he allegedly forced one of the victims in that room to sign paperwork releasing him from his 1017 recording contract at gunpoint. Let that sink in for a second. Dude allegedly pulled an AK on his own label head to get out a recording deal. But it doesn't stop there. While Pooh was handling the contract negotiations, his co-conspirators were robbing Gucci and 2 of his music industry associates. And one of those associates, according to the complaint, was choked to the point of near unconsciousness. Somebody was getting choked out in a Dallas recording studio, while their boss was signing away an artist at gunpoint. And Big 30, Pooh's right-hand man, also a 1017 artist, one of his closest people, allegedly had one specific job that night. Big 30 was standing at the studio door, blocking it with his body, making sure nobody could leave. This ain't a rap beef, gang. This is a federal kidnapping and armed robbery case. The arrest went down in April 2026. 9 people total. Pushy, his father, Big 30, 6 other co-defendants. The FBI didn't play around. And here's what caught everybody's attention when the complaint started circulating online. The document refers to one of the victims as RD, which, if you know anything about Gucci Mane's government name, you know that stands for Raddick Davis. But what really set the internet on fire was one specific line in the paperwork. It states that RD Gucci Mane described Williams Jr. to law enforcement, describing what he was wearing that night. Black Nike brand shy mask, black hooded shirt, black pants. That's a witness description, gang. That's what you give the police when they're building a case. And Gucci Mane gave it. Then FBI Special Agent Pamela Hansen confirmed at Pooh Shiesty's court hearing what a lot of people already suspected. She stated on the record that investigators relied on statements that Gucci and the other alleged victims provided to police after being called to the studio by a member of Gucci's security team on the night of the incident. She confirmed that much of the complaint, meaning the document the government used to arrest 9 people, was built on information that came from Gucci Mane and people around him. That's the moment the internet went absolutely nuke. But that's just the beginning, though. Let me tell you how the streets and the internet process this, because the reactions were all over the place, and honestly, it reveals a lot about where the culture is right now. First, Rick Ross, the biggest boss himself, chimed in from his hotel room in Prague. Rose said he doesn't like it for either side, but his real message was directed at Pooh and anybody else watching. He said, "In business, you got to negotiate. If you was signed for $100,000 and now you got $10 million on the table, it's time to negotiate. You can't muscle your way out of no business." That's Ross being Ross. Measured, experienced, seeing it from a label owner's perspective. He basically said Pooh played himself strategically regardless of how unfair the deal might have been. Then you had 50 Cent who posted and deleted, which is very 50, basically hinting that somebody told. He wrote, "Stay tuned to this week's episode of Who Told Them That." The implication was clear. 50 wasn't defending Gucci. He was just clowning the whole situation, like only Fifth can. DJ Academics had one of the more honest takes, and I'll give him credit here, even if you don't like the man. He broke down the paperwork and said clearly Gucci and the cameraman identified Big 30 by his Instagram account. They cooperated. They gave descriptions. And then Academic said something that got people more heated than anything else. He's doing what I would do. I ain't going to lie. I'll drop a dime on a Neen. Hey, real talk from Mac. Controversial but honest. And then there was the viral clip that might have been the most symbolic thing in this whole situation. No Jumper shared a video from what appeared to be a correctional facility. An Atlanta inmate on camera took Gucci Mane's book Episodes of Diary of a Recovering Madman and threw it clean over a railing. Gone. Done. That clip went everywhere. The message was loud, fam. In certain circles, in certain environments, the streets have already made their decision about Gucci Mane. But wait, it gets worse. This is the part that flipped. Everything's sideways. And honestly, I still can't decide if it's the boldest move in rap history or the most reckless one. Gucci Mane, while Pooh Shiesty is sitting in federal custody, bond denied, looking at a life sentence if convicted, decides to drop a diss track. Not just any diss track. A diss track where he raps in vivid detail. Exactly what he allegedly told law enforcement. I thought it was a business meeting, but it was a setup. I walk in the room. You can feel the pressure building. Not a dap me up the whole time they plotting against me. That's not creative writing. That's a recounting. That is Gucci Mane describing in the first person on a recorded and publicly distributed piece of music the events that form the basis of a federal kidnapping case in which he is the alleged victim and primary witness. Defense attorneys have made careers off of less. And then he keeps going. He goes after Big 30 and your fat-ass flunky. He is stone-cold junkie. He goes after Pooh's father. He goes at the whole camp, and then he gets defiant. This 2017 The Label. I built this __ from the ground, and I'd be damned if I let a nit take down. He closes the track, repeating, I done been betrayed, now my heart turned cold. Here's the real tea. The song is hard. Zovan cooked. The production sounds like it's from Gucci's mid-2000s prime. The bar is hit. If this was about any other situation, people would be calling it a classic disc. But you cannot separate the music from the context here. And because when you put those lyrics next to the FBI affidavit, they match. Verse for verse, event for event, the song tells the same story as the federal complaint. And Pooh Shiesty's defense team, they now have a recorded statement from the alleged victim in his own voice, distributed globally, describing what he says happened that night. The comments under. The song said it all. People wrote, so bro exposed himself. He ratted on Pooh, then does this while Pooh is in holding, but pretends to be hood. This is clown, __ another one, Gucci been gone. This is Hobson, and he a rat. The streets don't forget, and apparently neither do federal prosecutors. Let's run the scoreboard right now, because everything is still moving. Pushy is in federal custody in Dallas, denied bond. The Judge Renee Harris-Toever, looked at his record, looked at the fact that he was already on home confinement from his prior gun case when this allegedly went down, and said there's nothing she can offer him that wasn't already offered, and violated. He's locked in until trial. If convicted on the kidnapping charges alone, he's looking at a potential life sentence. His father, Lantrell Williams Sr., is also in federal custody. Think about that. A son and his father arrested together on federal kidnapping charges. That's a family tragedy on top of a legal disaster. Big 30 was initially granted a $100,000 bond, but it was immediately stayed by prosecutors, meaning the government said, hold up, no, we're not done here. His bond is frozen pending further review. He's in a legal limbo. The other co-defendants are scattered across various stages of the legal process. And Gucci Mane, Gucci is on Instagram dropping music, turning off his comments on the cover art post, taking a defiant stance publicly, while behind the scenes, federal prosecutors are using his statement to build one of the biggest cases to come through hop in years. One of Big 30's attorneys already confirmed that Gucci has decided he will not testify. So he cooperated with police, gave descriptions, gave a statement, but says he won't take the stand. That's a very specific line to walk. And a lot of people in the culture are questioning whether you can draw that distinction and still maintain any kind of credibility. Meanwhile, the legal machine just keeps grinding. Federal authorities were reportedly still searching for a ninth suspect at last count. The discovery process will take months. House attorney John Helms is already planting seeds of defense, saying publicly, in this business, things are very often not what they seem, and people's motivations are very often not what they seem. He's setting up a narrative that there's more to the story than the government is letting on. There are also whispers, and these are just whispers. No confirmed reports that there may be more context around what happened in that studio, around what Pooh felt he was owed, around conversations that may have happened before January 10th. Whether any of that comes out in court remains to be seen. What we do know is that Crash Dummy is sitting on streaming platforms right now, and whatever Gucci's lawyers think about that decision, and trust me, they have opinions. The song exists permanently, publicly, searchable, quotable. All right, fam. Let me zoom out, because this isn't just about Gucci and Pooh. This situation is a mirror being held up to the entire industry, and what it's reflecting is ugly. First, the contract conversation. This isn't the first time an artist has felt trapped, exploited, or underpaid by a label deal they signed when they had no leverage. It happens constantly. It happens to artists at every level. The difference is that most artists either stay quiet, hire lawyers, or make noise publicly through interviews and social media. The alleged solution here, pulling out an AK and forcing a contract release at gunpoint in a recording studio, is so extreme that it shifts the entire narrative away from any legitimate grievance Pooh might have had. Because now, Even if Pooh Shiesty had a real argument about what he was owed, nobody is talking about that. They're talking about the kidnapping, the robbery, the chokehold, the gun, the father, the FBI. Any real conversation about label exploitation gets buried under this. Second, what does it mean when your label head cooperates with federal authorities against you? In hip-hop culture, this is about as taboo as it gets. But here's the thing, and I say this not to defend a decision, but to present it clearly. Gucci Mane was allegedly robbed, allegedly held at gunpoint. His associates were allegedly choked. He didn't walk into a situation and volunteer information to get someone in trouble he was allegedly a victim of a violent crime, who then spoke to the police about what happened to him. Now, you can debate all day about the code of the streets and what you're supposed to do in that situation. But the reality is that federal kidnapping charges don't come out of nowhere. If he genuinely had a gun put to his head, the conversation about snitching gets complicated real fast. What isn't complicated is the decision to then drop a disc record that confirms everything. That's where Gucci may have genuinely miscalculated, because Crash Dummy might have felt good in the moment, and it clearly hit an emotional chord for him. You can hear it in those bars. But strategically, you just put evidence on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube permanently in your own voice. Third, and this might be the most important thing, look at how fractured the loyalty is in this situation. Pushy was one of Gucci's most successful signees. He was supposed to be the future of 2017. 21 Savage was out here bumping Pooh's music and sparking debates online. The culture was genuinely split. That doesn't happen for somebody who doesn't have real love and real credibility in the streets. And yet, here we are, two people who were supposed to be on the same team now facing each other in what might become one of the most publicized federal trials in hip-hop history. The stakes are life in prison for Pooh Shiesty and for Gucci. The stakes are his reputation, his legacy, and depending on how this trial goes, potentially his role as a witness in open court. This is what happens when the streets mix with business, and nobody calls a timeout. When grievances that should be handled in conference rooms get handled in soundproof studio booths. When the music that's supposed to be the art becomes a documentation. Here's what I'm leaving y'all with. Crash Dummy is going to be remembered not because it's the hardest diss track, though the Zovin production slaps, but because of what it represents. A man rapping about a situation that's actively in federal court. A witness statement set to a trap, beat, a betrayal so deep that it ended up on streaming services before it ends up in a courtroom. Pushy is sitting in a cell right now. His father is sitting in a cell. Big 30's bond is frozen. 8 other people's lives are on hold. And Gucci Mane is on Instagram with comments turned off. Whether you think Gucci was right to talk to police, whether you think Pooh was justified in feeling exploited, whether you think Big 30 just got caught up in something that wasn't his fight, the only people winning right now are the federal government and the content creators breaking this down for y'all. The culture needs to have a real conversation about what's happening here, about exploitation and record deals, about what happens when artists feel like they have no options, about the relationship between street mentality and legal reality, about what cooperation with authorities looks like when you're the victim versus when you're volunteering information. Because Gucci Mane is not the first person to get robbed and call the police. He won't be the last. And Pooh Shiesty is not the first artist to feel like he signed a bad deal in a vulnerable moment and couldn't find a way out. But the way this particular story ends in a federal courtroom in Dallas with a diss track playing in the background, that's new. That's different. And however it lands, rap is never going to look at the artist-label relationship the same way again. Real recognize real, gang. And right now, nobody in this situation is looking too real. Drop a comment. Let me know where you stand. Did Gucci do what he had to do? Did Pooh cross a line that can't be uncrossed? Or is this whole thing a tragedy for everybody involved? And if you ain't subscribed yet, bro, what are you doing? This the channel that breaks it all the way down. Hit that button. We got more coming.